Vice President Kamala Harris had a simple choice down the tail end of her campaign: talk to around 50 million voters and guest on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, or talk to a little over 5 million voters and guest on SNL. Remember that this was very near the eve of the election. Going back to that decision, we saw for certain that SNL was in this race with the vice president, going so far as to possibly have their network canceled, a choice that has probably altered the future of this country. Watch.
Masculine identity. We've actually been hearing a lot of talk about the Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan podcast. In fact, a little while ago, we were talking to two guys. One of them said that he was on the fence until he said when Kamala did not go on the Joe Rogan podcast, that was what influenced his vote. He ended up voting for Trump, but he said that he was open to listening to Kamala on the podcast, and when she didn't, again, not necessarily all the issues, but the fact that he said she didn't seem like a real person because she couldn't talk for an extended period of time. So
this late game decision is for sure to haunt her team for a long, long time. And remember that she took the SNL gig at the very last minute, meaning that there wasn't enough time to give President Donald Trump his fair share of exposure, hinting that SNL and NBC were obviously leaning toward VP Kamala. But it looks like things have changed. Comedy is back on the menu, and Bill Burr absolutely goes after Kamala Harris. Watch this.
All right, let's get to what you all want to talk about. All right, ladies, you're 0-2 against this guy. 0-2. All right, but you learn more from your losses than your wins. So let's get into the game tape. All right, ladies, enough with the pantsuit. Okay, it's not working. Stop trying to have respect for yourselves. You don't win the office like on policy, you know? You gotta whore it up a little. I'm not saying go full Hooters, but find the happy medium between Applebee's and your dad didn't stick around. All right, you all know how to get a free drink. Okay, and I know, listen, I know a lot of ugly women, feminists, don't want to hear this message. But just tease him a little bit. Make a farmer feel like he's got a shot. Swing a state over a little bit.
Now, I really didn't think that it would go this far, but it's pretty clear that the gloves are off, right? And even the mainstay hosts of the show, they had to change their tune just a little bit here. Granted that it's mostly sarcasm, but I wouldn't be surprised if they actually asked the president to guest on the show once he has a little bit of free time. Watch.
And that is why we at SNL would like to say to Donald Trump, we have been with you all along.
We have never wavered in our support of you, even when others doubted you.
Every single person on this stage believed in you.
Every single person on this stage voted for you.
Because we see ourselves in you. We look at you and think, that's me.
That's the man I want my future children to look up to. And we're so excited to debut our new impression, Hot Jacked Trump.
That's right, it's me, Hot Jack Trump. They finally got the body right.
And I get it, they're just not happy with the results. Nobody on the left is. But it is quite funny that they're trying to sarcastically get on Trump's good side. And since we saw a jacked Trump, Bill Burr also did a callback to Trump getting shot, saying that it definitely played a role into why he's the guy that the people voted for. Watch.
I'll be honest with you, I can't believe Trump didn't win this thing like 4 months ago. You know? I know that's weird for younger people to hear, but like when I was a kid, if you were running for president and you got shot and you didn't die, that was the end of the election. There was nothing you could say, right? Everybody would just be like, this guy's the man. He is the king. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I think the number one reason like Trump survived is all those herky-jerky movements that he does. You just can't like nail the guy down. I gotta be honest, the guy is a lunatic. I mean, he literally got shot and immediately jumped back up and started yelling in the direction the bullets were coming from, unarmed. That's not a sane human being. I would have been on the ground crying in the fetal position, like, all right, give me the truck. I don't want this job anymore. Just tell her she won. Tell her she won. But Trump's got all those weird, you know, coming out. I think the guy couldn't get like a bead on him, you know? And like right as he pulled the trigger, like Trump was just like, and Sleepy Joe, and the bullet went by his head.
I know it's a joke, but I would like to believe that there were many that were moved by this incident. We know that an American died that day, Corey Comparator, one that the president honored when he came back to continue his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. And Burr isn't kidding when he said that not everyone would have reacted the same way as Trump. Even guys like Mark Zuckerberg and Russian President Vladimir Putin, they were in awe when they saw how the president reacted to a literal bullet zipping by his ear, a wound that he showed on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Now look, I mean, there's obviously a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. I mean, the historic events over the last, like over the weekend. And I mean, on a personal note, it's, you know, I mean, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But, and I think, look, at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit and that fight. And I think that that's why a lot of people like the guy.
Do you even have a scar on your ear? You got anything on there?
I do.
What do we say? What do you got
So, right over here.
there? Oh, it's a tiny little mark.
It zicked right there.
Yeah. But it healed up pretty fucking good.
Well, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's little. It's not like some of the wrestlers, some of the UFC fighters.
No, you didn't
It's
get
a little bit-
cauliflower.
No. It was sort of like a top shot.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the bullet was a little of the ass, but you see the thing's taken off a little bit. But it makes me a tougher guy.
Meanwhile, Kamala decided to copy a skit that Trump did with Jimmy Fallon when he went on SNL from a few years ago.
You and me both, sister.
It is nice to see you, Kamala.
It is nice to see you, Kamala, and I'm just here to remind you, you got this. Because you can do something your opponent cannot do. You can open doors.
I see what you did there, like to a garbage truck, right?
I don't really laugh like that, do I?
A little bit.
Now, it's pretty clear that SNL tried to help her as much as they could in this year's presidential election, even though they had no choice but to take shots at President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris as well. But the days of having skits of either of them may have come to an end, together with the hopes of having Kamala Harris back in the White House. Now, speaking of hope, Jack Smith is now back in the news and all hope is gone. I covered this in a previous video, guys, where talks have broken out about the backlash that the DOJ is now getting. It's led to Jack Smith to now get in touch with them about backpedaling on Trump's charges. Another one that takes the cake was CNN's Van Jones saying that people are hurting because of the results. Watch.
They were hoping that maybe this time, one of their own could be seen as worthy. And once again, they're facing rejection. And that hurts. They thought tomorrow morning they're going to walk out with their shoulders back a little bit, maybe able to breathe for the first time and feel like they belong someplace. They did everything that they knew how to do. And it's going to be harder than it should be tomorrow for them to hold their heads up. And they're not the only people who are hurting tonight. If you're a parent of a trans kid, your child's face was used as a springboard to power for somebody. That doesn't feel good. There are going to be people tomorrow, we're going to be handing clothes at the dry cleaners to people who don't have papers. There are going to be people who are going to be cleaning your teeth tomorrow who don't have papers. And they're terrified tonight. And so it's easy to blow this off. Oh, look at the elites. They're going to get their comeuppance. It's not the elite that's going to pay the price. It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare.
Now, seriously, guys, we're talking about nightmares now. The only nightmare I'm seeing right now is the nightmare America just woke up from, which is the Biden-Harris struggle bus administration. Am I right, guys? He mentioned the people who are not a part of anybody's elite. African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to, who know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who try to dream big over the past couple of months, and tonight, they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt. He said that once again, they're facing rejection. But I don't know, guys. Aren't these black women that they're talking about a part of the majority of America that actually voted for Trump? So yeah, I honestly don't think that they're hurting at all. In fact, the people I know, they're celebrating getting out from under the thumb of Democratic rule. Do you guys agree, guys? The American people was loud and clear when they said that we want Trump. But do they listen? No, instead they lecture us like we don't know what's good for us. You guys remember Obama talking down to black men voters? Well, here's CNN host Jim Acosta lecturing Latino Trump supporters for what he called voting against their own self-interests by backing President-elect Donald Trump in the 2024 election. Watch.
A lot of folks are wondering, why would Latinos vote for Donald Trump if that means he might deport Abuela? He might deport members of their household. As you know, lots of Latino families in this country are of mixed status. And, you know, a lot of folks are asking on the Democratic side, why would they do this to themselves? Do you want to see mass deportations?
So the first thing that we need to do is close the border. More than 10 million people illegally entered the country. They have to be deportation. So there is no other way around. They have to be deportation. They have to be
deportation
we
camps.
have to respect the laws.
Do you
I'm
want
not
to see
saying deportation camps.
Do you want to see people
I'm
in
not saying
camps
deportation
rounded
camps.
up and put in
No.
camps?
No.
Isn't that what you
Well,
voted for? Isn't that what you
they're
voted
in-
for?
They are in camps now. More than 300,000 children are missing. So they're in camps now.
Lulu, you know, one of the things that I think we need to talk about is whether or not, you know, folks just had the wool pulled over their eyes. And maybe they were voting on economic issues, but at the end of the day, maybe voting against their own self-interest.
So they're basically saying that we got the wool pulled over our eyes while they're the ones that never learn. Seriously, guys, these are the people who call Trump supporters stupid, garbage, deplorables, and when they lose, they blame us? Typical liberal media, right? Now, of course, when all else fails, there's always the standard fallback for them. Blame racism and sexism.
Ignore there is still a lot of racism and gender bias in this country. And I think for us to ignore that and not try to bring that front and center so we can heal that would mean that we would end up in the same place. Kamala Harris is a woman of color in an interracial marriage, running as a woman to be the head of state. That is something a lot of Americans are not ready to deal with.
I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Pointing back to 2016, sexism, I'm going to say also racism and bias had to have played a role.
Now, let me state the obvious. One person is a woman. And this now makes Trump 2 for 2 in beating out a woman to become our president. Let me just ask this simply. It could be tough to answer. Is this country not ready for a woman to become president?
If she were a 6'4" white man from Arkansas or from, Florida, and she ran a good middle of the road campaign talking about reaching out, do you think she would be losing by that much? If she could like chew tobacco and carry a shotgun and talk about football and be a guy's guy, I mean, you tell me.
There are levels of sexism and racism that clearly a lot of people in this country are willing to tolerate.
Let's be honest about this, okay? Let's be absolutely blunt about it. There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country. And anybody who thinks that that did not in any way impact on the outcome of this race is wrong. I'm not saying that was the main reason that Kamala Harris lost and Donald Trump won.
I think that we've got to be honest. Among Hispanic men and black men, there's a lot of misogyny. And I think that we've got to deal with the reality that he appealed to this whole false macho thing that some black men and some Latino men went for.
I mean, if they want to talk about sexism and racism, why don't they take a look at the news outlets calling white women who voted for Trump uneducated? How about that? Maybe that's the kind of thing that really caused Harris's loss in the polls, don't you think? MSNBC host Al Sharpton said that Kamala Harris is a woman of color in an interracial marriage, running as a woman to be head of the state. And according to him, that is something that a lot of Americans are not ready to deal with. Really? When will they realize that it's not even about that? It's about the economy. It's about border security. It's about foreign policy. Those are what most Americans voted for under all those issues. Kamala, she just came up short. The proof is in the pudding, you guys. And guess what? That pudding is now showing that President-elect Trump has officially won Arizona, giving him 11 more electoral votes for a total landslide result of 312 electoral votes. His opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, only garnered 226 electoral votes. And regardless of what mainstream media is trying to feed the American people, it couldn't be any clearer. Trump's Arizona pickup ends the battle for swing states in the 2024 presidential election. In addition to Arizona, he picked up all the electoral votes in all the other swing states: North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Georgia, and of course, the crown jewel, Pennsylvania. When Trump won Pennsylvania, seriously guys, I knew it was game time. It was game, set, and match for our president-elect, guys. And now Arizona, President Biden won the Grand Canyon state by less than 0.5% back in 2020's election, and the results in the key area of Maricopa County, they were very slim, with Biden beating Donald Trump by 2%. Before Biden won Arizona in 2020, Republicans had carried the state every year since 1996. Well, now the good people of Arizona, they woke up and they chose to vote on the most highly important issue in their state, which shares a border with Mexico. As one Phoenix voter told Fox News, we have to have swifter incarceration at the border. And if there's a suspicion that they're going to commit a crime, lock them up. Arizona is the home of a higher population of Hispanic voters than the rest of the country, but even they showed signs of shifting toward Trump leading up to the election. And then, of course, there's a Kamala Harris staffer that's calling on Joe Biden to quit, to resign, in order for Kamala Harris to be able to be president for a few weeks. It's kind of crazy. Can you imagine Joe Biden losing his job just to allow Kamala Harris to play, kind of like playing, like Halloween? We just play dress up and let's just be president of the United States for the last couple of months and weeks. But this is actually being suggested here. Take a listen.
We're now 71 days from Trump taking the oath of office. What is the most important thing that everybody is looking for? That is my question. I'll start with you.
Joe Biden has been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States. Whoa. It would absolve him from being able to, from having to oversee the January 6th transition, right, of her own defeat. And it would make sure that it would dominate the news at a point where Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things that the public want to see is the time. This is the moment for us to change the entire perspective of how Democrats.
Okay, this is not.
Wow, like is this? What is it? What is it with Democrats and their need for attention, like to stir up drama? Like, what is it with that, guys? Now, here's the other thing. So, Joe Biden would literally have to lose his job. They've already stolen his attempt to campaign for to run for re-election. They've already, the coup has already played its course, and they've already stolen that opportunity for Joe Biden, which, by the way, Joe Biden won the nomination. Kamala Harris didn't get a single vote for the nomination, okay? So not only have they stolen Joe Biden's attempt to re-elect him or run for re-election for the presidential campaign, but now they're trying to basically force Joe out prematurely. Can you believe this, guys? They're now trying to get Joe Biden to resign, effectively make this guy lose his job so that Kamala Harris can be the first black woman president of the United States. And I think that there's a lot of pushback on this. And this guy is dead serious. You guys see this guy's facial expression, right? You hear his demeanor and his tone. He's dead serious about this request to get Joe Biden to step down. And they also want to bring Liz Cheney into the building. They want to bring Liz Cheney in. The argument here is that they want to make sure that they want to pave the way and make it so it's easier for a woman to become president in the future, at least from the Democratic Party. I think that this is the silliest idea I've ever heard personally. Please, guys, what do you guys think about this? Is this even legal? Is this I feel like they're throwing the Constitution in the trash. This is why we need Donald Trump in office, guys. But let's hear more from this guy here, this Kamala Harris staffer.
Point where Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things that the public want to see is the time. This is the moment for us to change the entire perspective of how Democrats.
Okay, this is now jumped from an internet meme to a Sunday morning show.
Jamal's out here right now in the season of House of Cards.
This is wild, guys, and he's dead serious. I mean, you've heard CNN's Dana Bash. I mean, like, he is dead serious about this. She said, so Dana Bash says that he's jumped from an internet meme to a Sunday morning show. Dana Bash, ladies and gentlemen.
My voice, yes, was ignored, but tens of millions of Americans' voices were ignored. I encourage my colleagues, Democrats particularly, to get out into rural America and sit with people, listen to them, have a cup of coffee, and understand they're not racist, they're not bigots, they're not anti-Semites.
It's not just about the campaign, it's about what does the Democratic Party stand for.
The reason we didn't win ultimately is we didn't listen enough to people on the ground.
So some of the Democrats' harshest critics are fellow Democrats, reflecting on the millions of Americans turning away from the party as they grapple with their election defeat. Rich Edson's tracking all that. He's live in Washington, D.C. There was a lot to say on Sunday, and they said it, Rich.
Yeah, they did, Bill. Democrats say they know there's a problem. They're just all over the map on how to fix it. Some say the party needs a much different approach.
Hills to overcome. The fact that her campaign started, in the middle of the summer, obviously it would have been better had that not been the case. Now, we can't go back and change history. We can't go back and change President Biden's mind as to whether he should have launched a re-election effort.
Wow. So now it's Joe Biden's fault. It's Joe Biden's fault that Kamala Harris lost the election. Joe Biden should have given Kamala Harris a longer runway to campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, please let me know. Is it Joe Biden's fault? Do you guys agree with this logic?
Speaker Nancy Pelosi told the New York Times she thought there'd be an open primary to replace Biden, and had he stepped aside sooner, there may have been other candidates. Pelosi also clapped back at Senator Bernie Sanders, telling the Times she doesn't respect Sanders saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned working class families. Sanders wants a more progressive party. He says it should come as no surprise that a Democratic Party that abandoned the working class found the working class abandoned them.
Wow. So the blame game continues, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to believe the latest video on this, so definitely watch that video after this one. But as always, appreciate you guys being here and keeping yourselves informed. Thank you for hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you guys next time. Well, guys, the great wealth transfer is in full effect. And, whether it's Donald Trump that ends up winning the election or if it's Kamala Harris, oh, God, we're in a world of a pickle, as my grandfather would say. Our freedoms are being stolen, guys. Credit card companies are out to get us. And if you don't understand the game, well, you end up getting played by the game. Now, if you're anything like me, guys, you were probably out of shape, maybe in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and just feeling like the system is just completely taking advantage of you. I remember for a long time, I could rarely ever get any time to spend with my wife. And it's kind of funny because where I used to work with a lot of married men. And a lot of those married men would always complain about their spouses as if they really just didn't even like their spouses, which is sounding like a pretty horrible situation. But that was the case for many of them. They didn't like who they were married to. But I was different. Anyway, through trial and error and through a lot of pain, I figured out how to gain freedom and also lose a lot of weight and actually get in shape. And guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, that was a game changer. To no longer be living paycheck to paycheck, figuring out how to get the credit cards to pay me, the power of a strong credit score. I pay thousands of dollars less per year for the same house as my neighbor just because my credit is better than his is. And this is not to brag. But this is the truth. The banks are literally taking advantage of the poor. It's like the people who can least afford it, they're charging the poor what is like unofficially called a poor tax or a tax on the poor. I'm now at a point where, number one, I don't pay for credit cards. In fact, credit card companies pay me to use their cards. And I figured out how to build a lifestyle that is just ultimately very, very healthy. I lost a tremendous amount of weight and I put on a lot of muscle. But when I was struggling, I wish I knew people who knew these things. So anyway, I decided to create a community of like-minded people who are also interested, just like me, in living better. So if you guys want to join my community, it's called the Liberty Pursuit Network. It is brand new. Come on over. I'd love to have you guys and join like-minded people. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now.